Hello, I'm Matthew Mille-Gray. Welcome to the channel. It's been day 2 of the Supreme Court of Norway, State versus JW. I must say that today was not an easy day for me personally, because I found that in my experience, it took a lot of cognitive load to get through. So I thought I would just do day 2, the reflections of what I observed, my lived experience, and just a few open questions as I endeavor to try and process this. Again, day 2, Norway. It is the 6th of February, where the Norway Supreme Court hearing, State versus Jehovah's Witnesses, is in effect. And so I want to present this video not as a final conclusion, just as how my mind and body responded to what I observed, and just to process, raise questions that I felt as a response to what was brought up as it unfolded. So again, my disclaimer that you may be used to, this is offered up as a working thesis. It's not a verdict. I welcome antithesis. That's part of my approach, is to assimilate that, to have critique and respectful disagreement as this thing is processed. Why? Because the goal here is the healthy synthesis. And I'd like to believe that that's important for essential critical thinking, collective clarity. It's not certainty. You know, I call it sigma. I always say that there's this part that we work in which is an unknown, or that we're uncertain about, or that can go wrong, and we can revisit it and see if that is the place where we can actually grow. So errors and omissions are possible and accepted. So this is simply my observation with lived experience for anybody who finds it useful. So perhaps we should call this day, in this particular video, I was trying to think of a title, and the title I was thinking of is this: a disturbing question. Are lawyers allowed to lie in court? Are lawyers allowed to lie in court? Because one thing that you could say deeply unsettles me, or that I felt, or that was crossing my mind, was in a courtroom, a place where you would think that there is heavy emphasis, how do I put this, taught to represent truth. Okay, I want to come out of this idea of nihilism. I want to come out of this idea of human institutes are corrupt, Matt. They're corrupt. Get it in your head, Matt. It's corrupt. This is why the rainforest is being depleted. This is why the coral reef is effectively hurt to these profound degrees, because humans are a disaster. All right, so get it in your head, man. I want to just take it that the court is a place where they tell you, speak the truth, represent justice, represent fairness, and this is what we've got to do, right? Because this is how we heal people. This is how we get catharsis. This is how we heal people, right? So I'm got that approach, right or wrong. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. Okay. Because it appears that a person, how do I put this, can mislead without consequences, right? As long as they remain technically within the rules. So maybe I'm naive, yeah, but I struggle with this. I don't know if you struggle with this. I don't know how many in the video who visit the channel struggle with this. But for example, I might be paraphrasing. Okay, I might be paraphrasing. Let's say Watchtower's lawyer, Anders is Rizdal. RYSSDAL. Okay, Anders, ANDERS. I think I've got the spelling right. Okay. So he said something to the effect, and I don't know if I heard this right. He was saying it. This was the comment where I stopped and I went, right, I need to just write this down. He says the gate is wide open. It's hard to get in, relatively easy to get out. So to me, I look at that statement, excuse me, and I go, is he referring to it's hard because you study the Bible for 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is. You go through a whole series of questions, but then to get out, you're free to get out. So that's an implication, but he hasn't said that. So I always go, okay, well, when something like this is said, I'm recognizing something very, very familiar, because I know I was talking like this. And it drove my family and friends crazy. They're going, Matt, you're evasive. You speak like, they'd say you speak like a lawyer. And I go, well, in my mind, yeah, because that's how this system works. Okay. So Rizdal, he was saying this in reference to Jehovah's Witnesses. So the phrase just stopped me cold. Oof, that was it. Okay. Is this a simple statement or of fact? Is that what it is? Or it's semantic reframing or framing of how things work. And this is what makes him, I don't know, an effective lawyer for him to get into a Supreme Court situation. Is that what it is? Or the language, Black's Law Dictionary, or just how being a lawyer is, that's required for being technical in your defense. What can I say? Technically defensible. Sorry if I'm floundering over words and forming this. I do have notes. I should stick to them. Okay. So this is part of his job, to be substantively misleading. So my question is this what legal proficiency often means? Not telling outright lies. Okay, you say, well, this person is a liar, but shaping perception through carefully chosen words. Because I went back and I was looking at the words and I was going, he didn't technically lie. I've heard this before. So that's the uncomfortable question, and forgive me if it's difficult to form this even with notes, but I'm just observing what my body does, right? It's not just the words. I want to try and be clean about what I'm trying to say here. Okay, maybe I should start with putting on my glasses, eh? So watching Rizdal, I saw an effective lawyer, but what I didn't see was, I didn't see a relaxed individual. Well, obviously, this is a Supreme Court. The eyes are on him. It's being broadcast. But I noticed this kind of thing, right? You know, pursing the lips when not talking, and I didn't see ease, all right, in my opinion. I didn't see ease. I just see this kind of thing, and yeah, it seemed to me like a tension, this lip pursing thing, which to me, I was trained, that's a visible restraint. Okay, as if there's multiple overrides that are going on. So I tried to look for a baseline, and I see this happening. So what's happening in his nervous system? Right or wrong, to me, it looks like somebody that's containing conflict, all right, rather than inhabiting calm and peace and unity. And so I'm looking at the contrast. The state's lawyer, Liv Gabrielson. Okay. Now, Liv doesn't look well. To me, Liv was appearing physically pressed, physically unwell, possibly dealing with flu or a cold, maybe. I don't know. Maybe an allergy. But Liv, to me, who's representing the state, okay, appeared warmer, more approachable, more human, more human. Okay. Sorry, Rizdal, but yeah, despite her difficulties, she felt more open to me, and therefore, in my perception, less guarded. So, Rizdal, maybe you are a real effective lawyer. I guess you are, being in the Supreme Court setting. And so I fully acknowledge that I'm likely in hot water here, and that I'm doing an overread of the situation. So I only offer it as part of my embodied response, not as proof of anything. Okay, right. So it's my opinion. So look, language is a tool of control. What struck me most, and what hits very close to home, was the language. So the refusal to use the word shunning, for instance. I saw this. And there was an insistence, and please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but it sounded to me like he was going, no, we don't use the word shunning, we use limited association. Right? So this immediately reminds me of linguistic strategies that I've experienced inside Jehovah's Witnesses, inside the high control religious order. So it's language that sounds gentle, reasonable. Let's be reasonable together. This is about love. We're very, very loving here. We're very concerned for your spiritual well-being. And meanwhile, it's concealing coercion and harm, which you can see in some of my other videos. I talk about it. And so my family, my close friends, they remind me of the linguistic patterning or the strategies that I've experienced or that I'm talking about here, and they say, Matt, this is you. You do this. Well, we've heard you do this. It drives us nuts. Okay? So you sound gentle. You sound gentle. You're doing this, Mr. Circuit Overseer, reasonable. Let's be reasonable. Let's be very loving. And they go critically, Matt, you're the lawyer. You should have been a lawyer. That's what you should have done. Well, I don't know how effective I was going to be. Maybe I was going to twitch in all sorts of ways. But, what they don't always see is that Jehovah's Witness culture, right, trains this kind of reasoning. This is what it's all about, especially if you serve in roles that require justification, explanation, or defense. obedience produces a kind of unnatural logic. If you're doing this in a ministry every day as a special pioneer, for instance, how do I put it? Orwellian doublespeak? Maybe that's the way to frame it. It's like something out of 1984. I've done a song called Mental Gymnastics, Ethics Elastic. So if people want clarity, yeah, to have this mindset with this mental gymnastics, they're going to be very frustrated, like my family has been with me, because they want straight language. Matt, just be straight. Don't talk in parallels. Don't speak in riddles. Don't speak in this strange doublespeak or litigative language. We want meaning that matches our minds and matches the way that we speak and our reality. Please, we would like that. So, shunning. Can we use this word shunning? So shunning by another name. Is it still shunning? There was somebody with a T-shirt saying shunning is a crime. I'll come back to that because it was to get a message out there, is to get a conversation going. That's how I read it. So calling... okay, let me not get distracted, but coming back to this word of shunning or calling, shunning limited association, it doesn't change. Social isolation, the loss of family connection, the loss of livelihood, even if it's a career to be in the religion, or the constrained life options. You can't just move freely. They say you're a volunteer. I remember my family taking me for a weekend while I was on assignment. I had no idea this was wrong in the organization, and just being away from my station for 2 days with my family being spontaneous, it wrecked it. It just completely wrecked it because I was hauled over the coals, so to speak. And my dad goes, "What's wrong with you, Matt? Why are you, we do this thing with you. We want to include you. And all we get is this attitude from you, and it's terrible. And man, it's just awful. Talk to your brothers. They absolutely, this is what they've been dealing with for their life. You just come in with the mobs." And I say to him, "Dad, do you know that I was hauled over the coals for this, for leaving my station? They've given me a letter of reprimand, 3 strikes and I'm out." And Dad says to me, "Matt, I've had no idea. So sorry, had no idea this is what happened." So yeah, and it's also difficult because if you now raised within the religion, there's this blur between family and the religion, because it's like, no, the family arrangement is Jehovah's arrangement. It's his organization. So yeah, it's very, very tricky. So just the strain with family connection, the shunning, the loss that happens, the constrained life options as I've been describing here, the vulnerability of somebody that is obedient to that system and then removed, boom, because you were obedient, but you became a liability. So you can say, "We love you, I love you," as sweetly, as quietly, as beautifully as you like, or as loudly as you like, but love that abandons or isolates, or sneakily erases. If you want to say quietly erases, I don't know. Is it quiet? It's not experienced as love. It's experienced as abuse. That's what I'm going to say from my own life. So I was sent to hostile assignments. My partner sent to hostile assignments. He didn't make it. Yeah. Is it bad to fend for yourself? No, but some of these places just really hectic. And they tell you that you may not come back. They tell you, they even sort of go, sure, you on a one-way mission, right? So I witnessed elders altering records. I would call them incentivized persons, trying to make a situation appear cleaner or appear more clinical than it actually was, trying to remove the muddied situation. I saw the incentivized structures that protect your insiders or your cliques, while others are excluded, compartmentalized, marginalized. I saw what was done to my own family. I saw what was done to my own father, for instance, himself an elder, well respected, through outright lies. I'm not even going to say it was like Rizdor. I'm saying outright lies, outright changing information, and people getting caught doing that, mishandling. It was devastating. I'm going, these are the people that I'm told are going to die for me. They are Christians. They're fellow Christians. And Matt, you die for them. All right? These are your brothers, your spiritual brothers, your spiritual sisters, brethren. It is devastating because you go, sure, man, I've had so many of these near-death experiences because I go, yeah, I will live by that. I will die by that. And from the outside, looking at all the soft-spoken language, this cleverly put language together, it just appears designed. I'm going to say it is designed. It controls assets, controls property. Let's liquidate the Kingdom Hall, bring money in. Let's transfer that donation that was specifically set aside for local persons and just send it to the branch. There we go. It's now comes outside of our minimum category that we can hold in the bank. It's about tax. That's what it is. It's about tax. So we're just going to send it to the branch. They'll handle it. If they see that our brothers need it here, we trust them that they will send it back. Oof, okay. Protecting key agents. Okay. Keeping certain people locked out and certain people locked in. Okay. We're going to propose that. And you can challenge what I'm saying. So why does this matter? Why does it matter? I'm going to take a pause on this for now.
Welcome to the Grand Compliance Tribunal, where the rules are made up, the charges are retroactive, and obedience is punishable by excommunication and painful death by any way possible.
Your screw you. Our copyright NDA trial begins now. Sinner.
We say, shut up, obey, when it contradicts written yesterday, today. Ethics, elastic, mental gymnastics. Don't point it out, this disloyal, no doubt. Obey and suffer, you sick a sucker. Resistance, you're proud, for crying out loud. Honey bunny, ethics, elastic, mental gymnastics. will hang you dry for not spotting the trap and for eating our crap. Ooh. Your screams, dog and deer, so rude to our ears. Ethics, elastic, mental gymnastics, holy soul food. Serve the world while drunk and pediatrics. You pop, cause ethics, elastic, mental gymnastics. Yeah, ethics, elastic, mental gymnastics. Sing it, baby.
So why this matters? So Jehovah's Witnesses is a religion, is an organization. They present themselves as representatives of Christ Jesus, right? Jehovah God, people who would heal, people who would protect, people who would show compassion. So yet again, and again, what I've experienced is I've experienced good people, but there is this abusive element that has come in. I call them the weeds, right? Person say, Matt, what you've seen, that is the true face of what's going on. If they are in guardian positions, that's got to tell you something. Okay. So I'm coming from the position of what I've experienced, what I've heard in court today. And instead of the care, healing, and compassion, I've been in situations where I've seen the very, very opposite. I've seen persons that have put themselves into what you could say an unaliving situation. And I'm with another elder, and the elder is just, instead of de-escalating the situation, is escalating the situation. So instead of trying to heal, and I'm just going, I can't work with this. Can't work with this. So I came across certain triggers from what I've experienced with what was echoing in the court today. I felt, oh, this is the kind of thing that produces the opposite result, you know, and gets you to twitch, and yeah. So what I heard from Rizdal in that courtroom was painfully familiar. Very carefully chosen words with plausible deniability and statements that are almost lies. Am I fair for saying that? Almost lies, but not quite. And so it's that almost, I think, that matters. And so I'm questioning that. That's why I felt my cognitive load is just, it's saturated, and I'm exhausted today. Because I think that in that language, that's where the harm resides. Okay? Why do I make these videos? For awareness, for trying to contribute. It also helps me process, and I know it helps others too. So if you see flaws in my thinking, please say so respectfully. If you've got different interpretations, yeah, I welcome them. If you've lived something similar, and feel less alone in hearing this, well, that matters. That's not a conclusion. It's a question just placed on the table and in good faith. And I appreciate anybody who comes in and listens to all of this. Okay, so here's my endeavoring to process this. Are lawyers allowed to lie in court? No. So Matt, what's going on? If they're not allowed to lie in court, what's happening? Because it sounds like a lie to me. They're allowed to mislead. Do I sound like a lawyer? Well, that shouldn't be a surprise, because you know when you split hairs, or if you say, oh, Matt, you're splitting hairs over what's happening, it's foundational to adversarial legal systems, right? So the core distinction is a lie is stating a fact that you know is false. Remember this mens rea thing? Right. So you can apply mens rea to intent, okay? Advocacy, where advocacy is different to a lie, it's presenting a selective, framed, refined version of facts that favors your client or who you're representing, while avoiding technically false statements. That's how you get through. So what Rizdal is doing is not anecdotal. It's disciplined semantic containment. So he's narrowing the definitions, he's substituting soft terms, okay, and denying the label while preserving the effect. So it shifts responsibility from institution to individual conscience. And it exploits the gap between formal doctrine and lived consequence. That's not illegal advocacy. It is, however, ethically disturbing, especially when the subject is human harm. You want to get up with a t-shirt and say, this is a crime. Okay? What is a crime? Is using shunning, or this definition of what it is, selective association, using it to shield a liability that's creating harm, that's perpetuating abuse. Because shunning is in human nature. You can say, I don't want to be with this person. But the difference here is this is institutionally required. The difference here is it's used to cover over alleged criminal activity or liability that you go, has this been ordered by the institution? Has this been ordered by those that are in positions of oversight? So that's why I believe my nervous system does what it does, why it reacts the way it does, because it's recognizing something very old and very dangerous. This wide gate, easy, well, you can't say it's easy in, but it's the easy out. It's the studying, it's going through questions, they say. It is kind of an easy in. I would say, in my opinion, the easy out thing, no, that statement's just loaded. Okay, so what's the trick that Rizdal is using with this wide gate, easy to leave claim? It leaves out the coercion, or it conceals it. Okay, and it's the coercion that's more coercive than the lie. So here's the trick. It's, oh, it's easy to leave. It's easy for a young person to leave. It's defined procedurally. It's not relationally. So yeah, you can submit a letter, say, oh, I'm out. There's no physical restraint, but what's excluded from that frame? Family strain, loss of family contact, the upheaval, the psychological pressure, the social annihilation, the loss of identity network, even livelihood or way that you were able to connect and get things done, the economics, the housing vulnerability, the psychological injury that just happens, and lifelong stigma. I heard somebody saying, oh, I've got PTSD. I heard another person joining and say, I've also got PTSD from this. And I went, wow. So the statement that came up in the court, it's technically defensible. It's misleading in its substance. So there's a name for this in ethics and law, and I wanted to find out what that is. So because this is trained. The phrase is abusive formalism. Abusive formalism. So when formal freedom exists, but the cost of exercising it is so severe that freedom is effectively constrained, I would like to believe I'm not reacting to semantics. I'm reacting to the coercive design behind I want to say laundered. You've heard of laundering, right? It's like trying to make something look clean. So it's behind the legal language. It's trying to make it clinical. It's trying to make it clean, as if shunning doesn't exist. No, that's just a human thing. We do it all the time. It's classical institutional gaslighting, this thing. So let's be very, very clear and grounded here. This isn't just an aversion reaction. This is something that is organized by the institute. Okay, so Rizdal's move here. Let's get it clear. When persons say, "Oh, he's lying," technically he isn't. He can't continue in his job if he is. If he's found, he's going to get a penalty, right? Some say, "Oh well, some of the lawyers for Watchtower, they have got the penalty, Matt. They cross the line. They get caught out." Rizdal's strategy isn't about facts. Okay. The strategy is terminology control. That's his job. That's what he's paid for. And these patterns, they're very well documented. They documented well in abuse psychology, by the way. If you're thinking of Dr. Stephen Hassan, or I think of Dr. Lynn Katz, for instance. Yeah, they've studied this psychology in a lot of depth. So you've got denial via redefinition. That's what's being done here. Okay, we don't call it shunning. It's just limiting association. It's personal conscience. The person, by their conscience, decided to limit their association. It's not enforced. It's loving. It's loving. Okay. This is 1984 Orwellian double speak. Tell me I'm wrong. So changing the word from disfellowshipping to removal. It's not really changing the behavioral expectation or the social penalties or the enforcement mechanisms, which are done in an abusive situation, mind you. Right? Somebody's been very obedient, followed all the rules. It's uncovered a liability because the leaders weren't following their own rules. And so that person is ejected. That's what happens. So that's the enforcement mechanism. As soon as there's institutional protection, you've got a Jesus Christ situation. Jesus Christ comes in, exposes the Pharisees, exposes the system. They want to just remove him in the ultimate way possible, right? So we don't get a change on the predictability of outcomes. So courts do understand this. They do. They sit there. They know. They know, that's why Liv Gabrielson, okay, kept anchoring the case to JW's own publications and descriptions. That's not accidental. That's surgical. Somebody who's done their homework, right? Now, Rizdal, if I'm wrong, I'm going to propose that the reason why you look the way that you do, why I'm noticing, and I've got to tread very carefully. I've got to tread very, very carefully because it's an opinion of semantic cause. I know that AI is being trained in the courtroom. Right now, the AI, the ones that are being used by the general public, they don't have the semantic training. So it's got to read body language. Where's your eyes? What are you doing? Okay. So what I'm observing, what I'm attempting to observe here is I hope consistent with what I believe is cognitive overriding. It's sustained inhibition. It's precision under moral dissonance, or contained self-monitoring. Right? Enforcement agents, they have a camera. They look at persons and they look for these kind of signs. So does it mean he's lying in every sentence? Matt, be careful. He's not lying. He's containing conflict. He's containing the mental gymnastics, the difficulty is not resolving it. Okay. So Gabrielson, by contrast, yes, she's got a cold, she's got flu, it's difficult, but you can say she's stressed, but her behavior, her tells are congruent. Her nervous system is taxed, but it's not split. So I'm thinking that in my analysis in what's going on here, my body is recognizing this difference because I've lived inside that system, which trained me to do the same thing, which my family goes, man, Matt, this is irritating, get out of it. And I've got to try and unwind all of that stuff. Okay. And that's why when my family or friends say to me, Matt, you sound like a lawyer, it can hurt so much, right? Or it can go, okay, good observation. Yes, I know what you're talking about. So was I becoming manipulative? You could say. Or maybe becoming hyper precise to survive. And so, what is this called? What's the proper frame? For this in an abusive situation, where by omission it's abusive. So let's see. Here's the accurate terms, and you might be familiar with these. For safe framing and being precise. Institutional gaslighting. Coercive control without physical restraint. Semantic laundering of harm. Abuse by structural design. Moral injury. Double bind enforcement. Relational deprivation as discipline. And plausible deniability architecture. So, yeah, what I'm reacting to is not a bad lawyer. Can't say, oh, Rizdal, he's a bad man. It's a skill system that's making your harm deniable. So why does this hit so hard? I think we've already got an idea about why. Because the courtroom, it confers legitimacy. Okay, it rewards composure over truth, and it flattens the lived pain into claims, and it treats survivors as data points. So yeah, if you feel, or if I feel that watching my life or our life experience translated into these abstractions or partially erased by phrasing, you could say that's re-traumatizing, and maybe that's a good place to stop. Just stop, take a deep breath, turn off the video, go do something else. Exhaustion isn't weakness. It's the psyche saying, I've already survived this one, so I don't need to do this again. Fool me once. Okay. So then we get onto this matter of grounding. You know, what truth can we hold on to? Truth is very, very important. Looking at Rizdal, in my opinion, the performance doesn't undo documented publications or things that we've put on a record or submitted, and we said, right, okay, this has been witnessed, and these are alleged crimes or alleged wrongdoing, allegedly. Risdal doesn't undo all the people that come in with their lived experience. How about that? It doesn't undo the internal manuals or the prior judgments or thousands upon thousands of testimonies that are consistent. You can map them and you can say, oh, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. Or even the court's own questions, which, by the way, pierce the frame. Right? What the court's going to do? Well, we're just going to have to see. Today is the 6th of February. Mentioned that. So judges are trained to hear what is not being said. They make little notes. They trained. That's what it is. That's how they got into those positions. We hope. But yeah, that's what it is. So when a judge says, question, what happens when the person is no longer in the household? Whatever has been set up as a facade, it's already shaking or cracking. So if anybody has found day 2 unbearable, I empathize. I want to say that you're not broken. I think that's a good thing to say. You're not broken for finding it unbearable. I would say that you are intact. That's my proposal. I'd say I propose that you are actually intact for recognizing it. So for those that have come through this day 2 reflection or observation about what is a lie and what is allowed to be deceptively framed in the legal process, well, I hope that that helps to stimulate the right kind of conversation. Again, let's view this with essential critical thinking. I want to say thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for your questions and your participation. Truly appreciate this. Friends, family, thank you very much. And for now, let's sign off. This is Matthew Millet Gray. Day 2. Go well.